Welcome everyone to My Self-Reliance, our Tuesday community chat. My name's Kelly Wilkins and I'm your host, and we're joined tonight by Bruce from CLAWS, from the Common Law Association Assembly. There you go, Western Sydney. And Bruce, I dubbed you Bruce Almighty, is here tonight to talk about common law and to answer questions that that many of you have about the common law space, and particularly how to deal with certain situations that we find ourselves in, language being a key topic, just to feel our way around knowing how to use the new language to be able to empower ourselves. So I'm going to turn it over to Bruce. Bruce, do you want to just give us a bit of an opening, and then we'll open up for conversation and questions?
So easy. So I'm just going to ask the question, what is common law? What is it and where did it start from? And I suppose the quickest and easiest to answer is common law is natural law or God's law. It basically comes from the religion, and it comes from the most basic stuff. It comes from the King James Bible, comes from the Magna Carta, and that is basically what our legislation is built on. So the other law, right, the one that we think is law, they tell us is law, is people making legislation, statutes, acts, torts for other people. And I suppose once you get that down pat, you understand it is as simple as that. So common law could be the Eskimos, could be people in the jungle of Africa. It's just basic common law or law of the land. That is it. Everything else is made by man for man. The only other law that really stands out is what they call case law. So that's, laws that have gone through courts and they've made a law from a case. So that's the only other real heavy duty law that's out there. Everything else is just made up by man to control us. Mm-hmm. That's it. Okay.
They do well.
No.
Yeah.
So it's very funny. So, and the biggest thing that I have learnt so far is that a lot of laws are built on scripture, and up until probably only 10 weeks ago, scripture was about the furthest thing from me than as dresses, right? It's that far away from me. However, I'm starting to learn that once I understand the scripture, I understand where the law comes from. And that's very important. Is God out there? It's faith. It's faith. And to each and every one, it's different. So I'm just, on this journey as long as most of you. I reckon in the last 2 years, we would have never even thought about anything like this. And yet it's been turned upside down by saying, you have to do this, you have to do that. I've got a direction. I've got a public health order done by a minister. Well, who gave that person the grant of power? What has the validity? What is the instrument that gave that person grant of power? Has Anthony Albanese been duly sworn in underneath Australia's Constitution?
I guess too, Bruce, before you move on from that, knowing that it's God's law is what gives it our sovereignty. It's what has us be. We're made in the image of God. It gives us the power to be sovereign and to be a real person in our own right, and not be governed by the dominion of someone else more powerful. Who's more powerful than us? God is, but not, we only give our power away when we choose to.
Correct. You only give the power to that person once you give it to them. And this is the thing. God to someone could be a spirit or a being. To a Christian, it will be the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. To the Aboriginals, it's the great dream time and whatever. God is so many different things, but the basis of common law is do no harm or injury to personal property. Do not commit a crime. If you commit a crime, there must be a victim. Do not lie, do not steal, and you're free to go about your business. And if you apply that to every single situation, right, you will be lawful. And even underneath their laws, you will be lawful. So it's pretty simple, but it's very hard to comprehend because we've been conditioned for so many years now that even as parents, you have to do this, kids. You have to eat your dinner. Eat all your dinner. We tell people we are actually probably our worst enemies, but we have to change, and then we have to live, and we have to live this way if this is the world that we want to create. So if you want to change your world, you have to change you. It's as simple as that. Mm-hmm. That's the hardest thing, is to actually look inside and to say, well, am I the best person that I can possibly be for myself and for the community? So it's a tough one. Yes, Anunza.
Hi, Bruce. I just want to ask, what are 3 big things you've learnt since you've jumped into the common law space that blew you away?
Number one is play the game with their rules against them, right? The straw, so I learned about the straw man and how, we're corporations and we're dead entities and all the rest of it, but that doesn't work in a courtroom. It does to a point, but you have to live and breathe it. Well, you actually have to be flesh and blood and breathe it, but then expect nothing from the government. Number 2, legalese. The actual meaning of words, right? So here's a question for everybody, and I'll get you to put in the chat. Just tell me where you live. That's it. Just where you live. We'll see who gets it right. We'll see how quick these come up. They haven't come up. No one's really putting up. Does anyone know where they really? Thank you. Thank you. You're a cheat, Kay. I already told you about that one. That's right. In your body. That's where you live. But when a police officer asks, pulls you over, and they said, so where do you live? You always give them your address. Now, is it smart, being a smart ass, by telling them that you live in your body? Or should they ask a better question? Again, it's what we've learned, we're told that if you say, oh, I live in my body, well, that's exactly where you live. And if I don't live here, well, where do I live? Right? The better question is to say, where do you reside? Well, I reside, I've got a license to say I reside where my car is, because that's where I register my car. It's the same residence. All right, so here's another one. Are you a driver of a car? Only if you're getting paid. Right? Otherwise, you're a traveller. Now, who's the passenger? The person paying the driver. Otherwise, you're a guest in a vehicle. So these are just simple things that's the law. That's the word of legalese that they have in their definitions, in their own acts. However, we believe, oh, we're the driver. And we're actually consenting to say, well, I'm the driver and I was in charge of that vehicle. So you're already saying, well, I'm guilty. But you're not. You're just the traveller, and you're allowed to travel freely across this country up until you sign your license, and then you've given your rights away. So your signature is one of the most powerful things that you can actually have. Right? You can sign everything away from it. So we've got to be careful with it, what we sign and how we sign it. Here's another one. Driver, why were you speeding? Well, without being smart, officer, if I don't have any speed on my vehicle, I'd be stationary and I wouldn't be able to get anywhere. Is that the truth? I don't know. Is it the truth, or is it being, or do we say, can we say it's being smart? But what are the police trying to do? They're trying to actually contract you to admit guilt that you were doing something wrong and unlawful when all you were doing was traveling. So if we apply those rules, if we go past a speed camera at 5 kilometers over the speed limit, did you do any harm to person or property or any injury? No. Did you commit a crime? Because if there is, bring me the victim. Are you lying? Are you stealing? And if not, you're free to go wherever you like. But the problem is, they've made legislation, a man has made another piece of rule or something like that, to only for one reason and one reason only, to control us and to get money. That's it.
So if we
And it's
find
been going
ourselves
on
in
for
that situation, then Bruce,
Yep.
then you know, it sounds like we need to learn a new set of language to kind of deal with this and go about it in a very different way than what we might have before. So what should we? Where do we start?
Learn the language, read and understand what you're actually contracting to.
So
What-
there's is there
yeah.
somewhere we can go to find this
Well, I think
the reference
Yasmin's one of them. Common law groups, you know, getting around community people that actually talk this way and talk the proper language instead of the shortened language. You know, like whether, you know, there's a good looking body and it's hot. Well, it's not hot, it's just a good looking body, right? Hot is a temperature. And we've used too many words that we've simplified and then it becomes part of our normal vocabulary. The hardest thing is not learning about what police officers are doing to contract you into guilt or admission to say that you've done something wrong.
Maybe we could put a few common words together that are really critical, like when they say, do you understand? No, you don't stand under them. So like those sorts of key phrases, we could put a list together. I don't know. What could
be a better word than that? What could be a better answer than do you understand?
You could say,
you know, you could even say, I actually don't comprehend what you're saying and I don't answer questions. Right? And if you don't, and you're just saying, you know, you're answering them. So if you don't answer, you know, we've learnt in all the movies that you have the right to remain silent only once you're under arrest. And then you choose, you say, I'm going to remain silent. So you still answer, because otherwise it's acquiescence, which is you're basically admitting guilt by silence. Right? And there's all the little bits of language and stuff like that. And there's a couple of really smart people who have been living and breathing this stuff for many, many, many years. And one of the guys is in our common law group and he's got that stuff down packed. We've actually got a doctor in there as well who's very smart. But it seems like a lot of the common law groups are using the right language to actually recontract with police officers. And you don't want to have to fight with the police officer. You don't argue with the police officer, right? You just accept what he's about to do because he's trained as a police officer, not as a constable. He's policing the legislation. He's not enforcing laws. That's why they changed their name, right? From a police constable to a police officer. So they're only policing and he's only an officer, right? But we think that they're, you know, here to stop the law. And a lot of the time they don't.
Bruce, have you had any stories or any experiences yourself that where you've maybe had a win or know of any?
Oh, well, Michelle on the call at the moment, she had a very good win. she's actually my fiance. So
Yeah.
we had,
Thank
so
you.
I'll explain. We did the protest up there at Baulkham Mills Council
Yeah.
back in August last year. We both have $4,000 worth of fines each. Well, I've still got 4,000 and Michelle's only got 3,000 now. So she went to court for the first time in her life back in, it was either March or April. I think it was April or March. And I'll keep it pretty short because we're on the hour. We went in to go against a constitutional issue where we're saying that before we actually go into court, we have a challenge before the court, and we want to raise a challenge for the court to say there's a constitutional issue to do with the grant of power and the validity of the whole system, because the Crown has been removed from the Constitution. So what's supposed to happen is they're supposed to get in contact with the 9 Attorney Generals to say we have a constitutional issue under the 1903 Judiciary Act. So cut a long story short, Michelle put this case forward, had a bit of a to and a fro with the magistrate, said to him, well, all respect, Your Honour, I'm going to place you under arrest. Tried to arrest the magistrate. She forgot to charge him. He's just adjourned the matter to the 22nd of April. And on around about the 8th of April, they had already heard the matter without her in court, and she didn't enter a plea, and they dismissed the case. So that was just $1,000 fine off. I went to court last Thursday and was just adjourned to the 20th of December. But I've had a couple, and I've represented someone else in Canberra. And he got off a bail condition where he couldn't go into the parliamentary circle, got out of resisting arrest for police and just blocking a footpath or something like that. And the magistrate just wanted to throw it out. So to go into court now, thinking that it says on all the paperwork that you're the defendant or you're the bad person, you've done something wrong and you're guilty, to actually going in there and repositioning it as going in as the plaintiff and keeping them accountable, we're starting to kick some goals. We're starting to kick some goals, so it's good. And it's a different way, it's a different mindset, but you can just challenge their jurisdiction, and they have none until you give them consent. So there's some good things we can do if people have got issues and tickets and parking fines and all the rest of it. There's a whole lot of things.
Yeah, we were talking about my issue earlier today. I've got the driving whilst looking at a mobile phone, and I'm pretty sure that that doing so safely, might I add, doing so safely, and $375, and so rather than just pay that, we're going to go to court. But then it's what we say in court, right? So, yeah, help me through that one, Bruce.
Righto. So court, and this is what we've got to get really clear on. Court is not bad. Court is nothing different to a squash court or a player on one side and one player on the other side. And all that happens is that one player has to prove that you did something wrong, and you just have to validate that you didn't. So it's just a back and forth until you plead your case. That's one way of looking at it. So again, you remember, we learnt this. You are innocent until proven guilty. Right? Now, again, Kelly, what did you do wrong? What injury or harm did you do to personal property? Nothing. What crime did you commit? Well, where's the victim? Did you lie? Did you steal? Then you're free to go about your business. That's it.
Yeah.
Right? The whole thing is that it's the game of trickery, that you're led to believe that you've done something really wrong because a group of people got together in a parliament and they brought up a bill and they had a discussion that, this is another way that we can actually raise some revenue.
Mhm.
and then we'll send it to the Senate or to the upper house, and they validate to make sure that it's all okay, and then they send it back down to the House of Reps, and then all of a sudden it's passed. Well, that's how it's usually done, right? Well, how the hell did they do it on a public health order? Who had the grant of power? Who had the validity? And show me the instrument that gave these people that power. If you can't do that, I think we've got a little bit of corruption there. Now, again, I polish concrete. I do epoxy floors. I'm a director of a company that works for Transport New South Wales and for the Australian government, for defence and stuff like that. And I've had to do contracts and all the rest of that type of stuff. But I've never been so passionate about learning law compared to what I am now to actually, you know, solve these people doing the wrong thing by other people. And each and every one of you, right? This is going to hit home hard. If I told you that you're all paying 70% tax, would you believe me or call me a liar?
No, about right.
70% of your hard-earned work is going back to those grubs. Now, I'm going to ask you, if I ran a business that I went from $240 billion and 2 years later I was at $1.4 trillion in debt, and then I've got a treasurer who said, we've never built a better budget and stuff like that, but this is what's going to go into our kids for the rest of our lives. Where's the money going to, right? Isn't it terrorism that you actually, you know, give money to a corporation or to a group of people to fund wars? Isn't that what we're doing? Because the ATO, when I rang them up the other day, said, well, that's why we had taxes, so we could fund wars. He said it to my face, and I thought, excellent, you're recorded. Thank you. So guess what? I'm not paying tax. You don't have to pay tax as an individual. I'm actually trying to find the form on the ATO website where you fill out a form and say that you're not paying tax. It's voluntary. But your boss, underneath the 2001 Corporations Act, has to withhold your tax. So we're the bad person. The employer withholds the tax for the employee to give to the ATO. And that's how governments get away with it. That's how this corporation is getting around all the loopholes, and it becomes a corporation that you can't throw into jail. You can only throw a human of flesh and blood. And that's where we're learning, how do you actually get out of the corporation and just where it's the flesh and blood, where they can't deal with you. Now, there's a couple of other groups. There's Commonwealth custodians that are doing something along those lines as well. And one of our other members, he's, you know, heavily involved in that. But it's about unincorporating yourself. But I'm still, for me, I don't know about unincorporating, because there's certain things where you mightn't be able to get a passport, or you might be able to get insurance. So I'm still trying to figure that one out. So for everyone, there's plenty of groups and plenty of people trying to work on different angles with all the right values, right? But different minds. They're not all like-minded, but they're all got the same value to actually, you know, have a freer life. So again, there's so much out there that we all need to learn, but what we all need to do is come together and help other people come together. So, you know, we change our worlds, and if we change our world, the whole world's going to change. Does that make sense? Excellent. I know you're all on mute, so I just see all these heads nodding.
Yeah.
Bruce, can I ask a question just about that, what you just mentioned?
Yep.
So where do you find this tax form? Like you said, it's somewhere.
Oh, that's a real hard one, right? We've,
Right.
I'm trying to find it myself. I've got to get a bit more active, but we've got a couple of other people in our common law group that is actually finding it, but it is on the ATO portal, and you should be able to ask the ATO, can you please send me the form where I don't have to pay tax? Because I believe it's voluntary, and they should send it to you. No, well, they should. Again, this is, Kate, this is about giving it a go. And then you get back to the group, and so everyone just does their little bit, and you go, yep, I got it. This is where it's at, and we all do it. That's how it works. If you leave it up to one person, if you leave
Yeah,
it up
but
to
it's-
one freedom fighter, we're not going to get the change. It's a collective that's going to change us.
Oh, absolutely. But then you're dobbing yourself in, aren't you, that you're not paying tax? So if you're saying that to the taxation department. So,
Okay. So
'cause I
learn
know-
to unlearn. Learn to
Huh?
unlearn. You don't have to pay tax.
yeah, but how do you make that legal?
You fill out a form that the ATO provides you, and you fill out your tax return is I'm not paying tax. That's what it is. We've got 2 people in our group who've done it, but it keeps changing every year. And it gets harder and harder to find. It's like me trying to find a private prosecution, a private prosecution form to actually arrest Anthony Albanese and the Governor General. I can't find it. I can't get into a court and find it in New South Wales. I can't get the police to actually arrest him for me. Otherwise, I'd have both of them.
The easiest way to do it is you have to become your own boss. So you have to set up your own business, and that's where I am now. And so therefore you just don't do your tax return to pay your tax.
There's another way.
Because
There's another way.
technically, I mean, they can't make you do it because it was something that was only introduced after the war to refinance the countries, and it was meant to be phased out, as we know, X years ago. So it was only a temporary thing, and they've just kept it. And then they add all these other things, like you say, you know, so you have your car registration tax and your this tax and your GST, and then all those cumulatively add up to a massive amount.
Yep. That's what they said about the Sydney Harbour Bridge. Once we pay it off, there'll be no more road tolls. Next thing you know, every single road in Sydney's tolled, and now they're talking about doing it per kilometre. 33 cents per kilometre. I do 60,000 Ks a year. That's 20 grand.
Yeah.
For what? To use a road? I suppose I do build them, but that's okay. I'll get something back from it. But, you know, that's a lot of money that they want to charge. Right? If I do 60 Ks a year, 60,000 Ks, that's digressing. How do we go? So what do the accountants know about voluntary tax? That's a very good question. Who's going to ask that one? I'll ask my accountant that tomorrow and see if they know. Is the ATO charter stating it's voluntary? Michelle, didn't you find something about that? Didn't you find something in their charter?
Yeah, it is in their charter. I'm just going to try and find the link, but for PAYE, because the boss pays your tax, you do have to get that form to tick that box to say that you're not going to be giving your tax voluntarily anymore. So they've got to give you it back. And I
There you
do, and
go.
I have heard that somebody has done that though.
Yeah, Lenny.
Because I've read it on one of the social pages.
Yeah. This is the power. This is the power of groups, and Unza and Barry and Sigmund and Chris. Where that's what we're finding is the power, and everyone's got a slightly different skill set, but we're all aligned, and we're really, you know, kicking some big goals. The hardest thing is just setting up a group and having a committee set up so, you know, you do have some type of level or structure in it, but it doesn't look like it's structured like a government. And that's the biggest thing in groups where people want to be free and all the rest of it, but you still need the structure and order and appreciation for it to work. And that's been, I suppose, a bit of a challenge setting it up. But I think our group, we've actually really nailed it down in probably only about the last 3 to 4 weeks. So it's been really good.
Bruce, got a question for you, and it might be
Yep.
a difficult one to answer, but around prepping communities, and I can appreciate, you know, we all have similar values, but we all go about things a bit differently.
Yep.
So around prepping communities, we have this kind of an idea about where we might be in 5 years' time. Where do you guys feel in the common law communities? Where could this take us if we all got on board now and we all kind of, you know, freed ourselves up? Where could this take us in 5 years' time, do you think, or 3 or 2?
Ooh.
It's a tricky one.
Well, you see, this is where we need to have a vision for the future of that. And you actually need to, like, in 5 years' time, we will have so many self-sustaining communities operating under common law, and you sort of need to have that sort of thing. So you're working on the quantum field at the same time.
Do you feel like it's something that people can, or we can kind of work together in a community where people are at now? Because speaking for myself, my future is somewhere rural, somewhere where I'm growing my own and being self-sufficient. That's where I would like to see, myself and my family be, not caught up in the city where you've got to play by the city rules so much. Is that a thought that runs through common law people? Where do you guys feel like it sits?
Well, for me personally, I've already started doing that. So I've got the land, I'm growing the food. We've been creating I had meetings with some people today about who can come onto the land, just share it with me, what roles and responsibilities we would have, looking through common law. Like, one of the aspects of common law is self-responsibility. So you're responsible for this part for yourself and then this part for community. Looking at implementing systems like Ubuntu, where you contribute 3 hours a week to community, having talking circles, those sorts of things. So that's where I'm at the moment. And while we've got a lot of people here who are awake, hundreds of people, very few are actually, they're just in survival mode. So they're not really actually able to take that step to look at it. What is it that we need? And what is it that creates a successful society? So one of the things that creates a successful society is intergenerational. So where you have, elders around that are helping to bring up and support the mothers with wise things, or give them some time off. And then, so we're sort of looking at how do we bring back some of those things that really work to create an effective society? And then how does that actually marry in with natural and common law?
I love that. Thank you for that. That's perfect, Jasmine, because it's where we act as a community and as a society that has this be really powerful. Like Bruce was saying, it's not about individuals, doing things. It's like we all bring our skill sets, and this is very vital and powerful to do this together. So, and having that common law.
See, this is how powerful it is. Barry, I think, has just got the actual ATO PDF there that you fill out. I haven't opened it up, but I think that's the one, right? So if everyone wants to, I don't know how you can actually screenshot this or grab that URL. That's what you want to have a look at. And it's just things like that. That's what I'm saying, is that here we are in this little Zoom call.
Yeah. So it is. It's a voluntary agreement for PYG withholding. Yeah.
Bingo. There you go.
There you go. Powerful.
Thank you. Thanks, Barry.
That's all right.
And how you do it, guys, is if you click on the 3 dots, then you can save the whole chat.
Where's the 3 dots?
In the little chat next to the.
Oh, down the bottom. Okay.
Yes.
There you go. Save chat. Excellent.
I found a page on the ATO website, and it actually has 3 voluntary forms, and I just went into the first one, so I don't know whether I haven't looked at the second one, so I'll put the link to the 2 pages back where it has the list of the 3. So if someone wants to, because I'm not familiar with the form, if someone wants to look at the 3 and work out whether they're what we're actually looking for.
And Anunza attached the document for the Legalese dictionary for definitions. So thanks for that, Anunza. That's very powerful too.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So okay. So I've just been thinking about what you've been saying. So I've got a little bit of a different theory on all that. And there's a couple, and everything is possible, right? And that's the one thing, nothing is impossible. If we all remember back to when we were watching cartoons as kids, and we saw the Jetsons or we saw the Thunderbirds or any of that, we all thought, oh, wow, imagine if you could talk to your watch and you could talk to someone. And now it's just like an everyday part of life. Imagine if we, you were looking at a photo and it dropped down and you were talking to your son in outer space. Well, we're talking to people in space mainly. I don't know if it is in outer space or what it is. That's another rabbit hole. But everything is possible and nothing is impossible, right? And so could we actually have war in this country for the first time ever on the planet? And the answer is yes. And the more we get out of this pandemic, or we think we're out of this pandemic, it's only, for me, I believe, the beginning. Right? I believe it's only the beginning, right? China's already, and again, we've got to, it's not that I don't listen, but it's just like watching cars go past on a freeway. You got to see what they're saying out there and what are they telling everybody else and what's everyone else believing. Now, is it possible that China could come into this country? Well, I reckon 15 or 20% of the population is already Chinese. They're already here, right? And if our government is selling everything of our land to foreign countries, well, how can you tell them they can't come into this country to reclaim what's rightfully theirs because we sold it to them? Of course they're going to come in and take it, in my view. I hope
Just
I'm wrong.
on that,
Yeah.
a lot of these contracts have been done over the last 50 years. And as our government is unconstitutional and they have granted a lot of the sale of these assets, would they not technically be null and void?
Prove that one in the court of law when you've got 1.6 billion Chinese saying, well, we've got a piece of paper here, we're coming to get it. Again, this is exactly what I'm saying. Yes, technically, Yasmin, totally agree, null and void. Is it against this constitution? Yes, 100%, because they brought the Australia Act in 1986 and the preamble says that it is indissoluble under the blessing of Almighty God. Totally agree. But what's happening at the moment? Exactly the opposite. How do we get remedy for this? Yeah, me personally, I can't even get into the court system, right? I can't even get to the police. I've served the AFP, the Commonwealth Police, Craig Kelly, Malcolm Roberts, Senator Rennick, Rod Culledon's got the papers, I know that. Ricardo Bose is around the corner. He doesn't even want to look at it. They're all complicit and they're all part of, they're all being charged for misprision of treason. How do we get remedy? Do I have to, put a bomb on a truck in the middle of the Harbour Bridge and put a banner across it or something like that? I don't know. I'm just trying to do it absolutely lawfully, doing it peacefully, but it's not getting anywhere. I feel like I'm not getting anywhere, but I am getting somewhere because, there are slight ripples that are happening. They're just not big enough to actually get remedy.
Are any of you guys aware of the situation in Western Australia where the Port Hedland government, the local government, are actually going to sue Mark McGowan and about the mandates?
There's a lot of people suing a lot of ministers and health ministers and stuff like that. There's a lot of private prosecutions going on.
Yeah, well, this is quite big because the Pilbara in Western Australia is the largest sort of region of Western Australia, not as many numbers as you can imagine. It's a large region and a lot of rural, but it has over 30% of people who have decided not to have the vax, and therefore they're really struggling with a lot of industries and things like that. So yes, they actually voted to do it. And then there was a lot of pressure put on the CEO and the mayor, and they're trying to undo it. So it's going to be really interesting. But I phoned all the councillors in support, and they said they've been inundated by people with supporting them, continuing their motion. So I feel that's getting a little bit of publicity. And if something like that was to succeed, and then at the same time you're working in with the Port Hedland Council of, well, we've got a system that's so far wrong here. What do we need to do if we're going to pull? Because they're looking at seceding, if that's as another outcome, pulling away. So if they're going to pull away, then how do they create a new system based around common law, around moral values, etc.? So that's where I'm sort of like pinning my hopes on that we might be able to have a big movement, pull away, create something new based on common law.
Amazing.
The issue is, right, just have a look. Look, the Governor General said the people have voted because 95% of the population have gotten, you know, the jab. How do we know that's true or not? What's actually true? This is the hard part. What's actually true? That's the hardest thing.
Well, a survey that was done said 77% of people were coerced.
But it doesn't matter. Most people have got it. Whether you're coerced, it doesn't matter. They've consented because whether they've felt whatever it was, they consented. New South Wales just brought out legislation this week that if you're going to have sex with someone, you've got to have the talk. Right? There's legislation and there's ads on now saying how you have the talk before you have sex. Right? But now I'm a little bit confused. So that's just for sex. So that goes all the way across all years and stuff like that of people. But a 15 or a 12-year-old can give consent on their medical condition, yet us as parents still have to write out a permission slip to go to a swimming carnival, to go to an excursion or something like that. What is this coming to? Sorry, I'm just making a statement. It's just, it fires me up where it pisses me off. It doesn't make sense.
And I haven't heard about the talk, so that's a new one.
It's new legislation in New South Wales, the only state. So that means any couples here with, you know, make sure you go to bed tonight and you have the talk. If you don't have the talk, well, then you can, you know, it's against...
the talk, are you vaccinated or are you not vaccinated? Is that the talk? I haven't heard this. Sorry.
No, are you... So to have sex, you actually have to say, are you okay to have sex?
Oh, right. So that way,
and
permission.
It's got to be
kind
consensual. Permission.
Right.
Yep.
Okay. Every time.
I still don't know how that's going to hold up in a marriage or in a Muslim relationship or something like that. I don't know. But again, how can why doesn't no mean no? Doesn't no mean no?
We've got a question from Anunza. She said, where does common law stand if we remove the Queen to become a republic by referendum?
Oh, the Queen of Australia?
The Queen of England.
Well, no. So in 1986, we thought, oh, we're going to make this so we can feel better about ourselves. So we'll come up with the Queen of Australia and we'll come up with the Commonwealth Act and stuff like that. So it looks like the Constitution. They sell the Constitution for $5 in Parliament House, but they don't even listen to it. So I've even looked at the oaths and affirmations legislation, right, on how they're allowed to change the oath, which is underneath section 42, and then it refers to the schedule in this. So I'll read it out because this is how bad it is, right? And you can all look at this. So the affirmation, Anthony Albanese was supposed to say, I do solemnly and sincerely affirm and declare that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to Her Majesty Queen Victoria, or Queen Elizabeth, her heirs and successors according to law. His little affirmation, not that I know it off by head, was the first two lines. So it was, I, Anthony Albanese, do solemnly and sincerely affirm and declare that I will be true to the Commonwealth of Australia, its land and its people. There's no allegiance to the Crown or to the Queen Elizabeth. No. Hence why I want to charge him for taking the wrong oath. He's fraudulent. He has no ground of power, and none of them do.
Scott Morrison did the same thing, didn't he? Well, not the same thing. Yep. He said Her Majesty the Queen and...
Oh, he just probably can't speak properly. But
no, but he said the Commonwealth of Australia and the Majesty of the Queen.
The Queen of Australia, he said. The Queen of Australia. There is no Queen of Australia.
So Paul Keating was the first one to really change it back in 1993, and it's in the legislation. It's a 27-page document. I think I've got it here somewhere. Yep, oh, look at that. Oaths and affirmations. I've got it right here, and I've got the whole 27-page document right there. It's only about, half an hour read, but it goes into it how everyone since 1901 has sworn allegiance, right? And there's three oaths. There's one for the Prime Minister, there's one for the Governor General, and there's one for our judicial system. And then you've got the Privy Council that don't have to give away anything at all. So this is all the secrecy, the lies and stuff like that. And it's all about control. They just want to get rid of paying out money to, as they say, the bottom feeders. And that's it. This is where it's all going. So yes, do I see that we're going to have smaller communities in the outreach of whatever, but they've also got drones that can actually shoot stuff down. We all carry mobile phones so they can track us, right? So we've got to learn to possibly be on CB radios. It may end up being a bit like Mad Max or, Judge Dredd, where all the people living below the ground and stuff like that. And you've got all the nice people on the top, or Epsilon or something like that. Is it possible? Yes. And do I hope to be wrong? I certainly do. I hope I am wrong. I don't think I'm crazy, but I just hope that I'm wrong.
I do believe that, though, when you start to study common law, that we do need to realise it starts with our own sovereignty,
100%.
and that if we want to win in court, then we need to be who we're saying that we're being. Not just, it's not. You need to walk the talk, and I liken it to if you feel like you've gone into the court, maybe you didn't win, maybe you used all the same words as somebody else did, but it didn't work. What was the difference? And sometimes it takes who you're being from here. And I call it's the Jedi Knight. These are not the drones you're looking for. And when you carry yourself with the belief of who you are as a sovereign being, that's going to speak volumes, more so than maybe the particular words that you use. Knowing that the words that we use are important, but sometimes some people can use the right words and not have the outcome that they're after. And so, being able to be those words, not just say the words.
That's it. It's people who just want to get off fines, but still speed around and just break the laws and stuff like that, and be a possible danger to other people. That's the issue, is who do you really want to be? I was driving a truck at 9:41 at night, and I went 7 Ks over the limit down at King Street at Newtown, past the speed camera. But there was no one else on the road. So again, I was driving within the capacity of my ability. I did no harm. I just went past the camera, and they want 400 because they were doing roadworks down at Marulan, and that's $690. I was back in a weigh station within 5 minutes, and they go, no, not good enough, not a good enough excuse. Well, sorry, we'll see you in court. So I challenge everything, parking tickets, everything. They can go and jump. I pay enough tax. They're not going to get me on for, my hard-earned slavery work. My net, the only thing I've got left, the 30% that I've got left, they still want to take a piece of that. And they think that you're super safe. So they only charge you 15% of your super. But you still got to buy fuel and rego and everything else. So they're still getting the one they say they're not touching, they're still getting it. Lying mongrel dogs. Anyway.
Does anyone have any questions before we wrap up tonight? Because we
Yes, I have a question.
Yes, Kate.
Again, another question. I just wanted to know about, how the WHO was supposed to be taking over our government, and our constitution and our laws aren't going to mean anything because we're going to be governed by them. Or it's been very quiet about that whole thing that was supposed to happen on the 21st or 22nd. They were having that big meeting, 147 countries were going to sign up to give WHO that right. I just wondered, is there any developments in that area, and what's, how that's going to affect us and what's happening with all that?
So I was tracking that for a bit, and then I go, okay, I started questioning it. Is it something that just someone has set out and publicised? Has anything
The
been
name.
considered? Yeah, has it been gazetted? Right. So even the same thing with the Daniel Andrews, that he was going to, you know, rip up all your crops and fine you $10,000 if you were going to grow stuff at home, and that was false. But the part that wasn't false on that one is that they're allowed to come onto your property without warrant and without identifying themselves. So that's the part where they didn't actually come out about that bill and stuff like that. They said that, you know, you weren't allowed to grow stuff. So the WHO one, I haven't heard much about it, and there's been absolutely nothing.
I have.
Oh, you have?
So several countries rejected it. So it's been paused. They're going to resubmit it in 24.
Right.
But 2024.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Once we get
the
approval,
leader of
that's-
Botswana actually read 47 leaders across Africa rejected it, and so did Brazil, Russia, Malaysia, and several other countries rejected it. So so did number of 11 senators across the USA. So it was a beautiful pushback, actually, and it had to revert back to this new plan of the 2024. So yeah, we've actually.
But where was it published? This is the thing. This is the part that I'm starting to get at, is that there is so much information out there. It's a case of, okay, it's out there and it could be true, but where was it published? And this, if it's only on a little platform that we can't find, I'm starting to see that there's a lot of stuff that's probably not published. And I get it. There's a lot of things that we don't even know about with the Privy Council and all the other things that they don't do. But we've got to be really careful. Now we've gone through all this stuff. We just got to say, what is the facts and where is the evidence?
Well, we saw it, actually One Nation published it. So it's come through that channel.
Well, as long as there's, what I'm getting at is be really careful about what's coming up, because we're going to get a lot more of this, you know, to actually get us off track to focus somewhere else when we've got to be back over this way. This is the game they're going to be playing. And I think that for me, I'm just sticking very, very straight on the line now to grab people together, have communities like this, educate, facilitate, take action, you know, empower people. Don't feel like you're the victim, be the plaintiff.
And what would you like to have happen? Tell us about the group that you're running and educating, and how can we get more involved?
Basically it's common, just look up common law, you know, or clause, Western, common law group, Western Sydney. We're a growing little community. I think we're at around about 60 or 70 odd people, but depending where you're all at, you know, there's common law groups everywhere, but, you know, we'll take anyone from anywhere if they're, you know, again, as long as the values are there and, you know, you want to be active to actually learn and support other people. We actually took a girl through court yesterday, a girl called Natalie, who was attacked by 17 police officers. I think she had 2 cracked ribs, dislocated shoulder and stuff like that. And she was up for 5 charges, and it got thrown out of court. So that was a good result. Now she had a disability, but we're helping people. Thanks, Anunza, for putting that up.
So how did you grow to 60 people? How did you get that many? Because we're still at the very small number here.
I don't know. It's been very organic, I suppose just having conversations like this. Oh, we had one little barbecue. That's where we picked up Daniela. We had a little barbecue at Parramatta Park, and we just had a free barbecue and handing out some little flyers and that, which had QR codes on it to learn about common law and other types of law, corporate law, the flags and stuff like that, and just educating people. Is that how you came along, Daniela? She's not going to say anything.
Yeah, no, I'm saying something. But yeah, that's correct. That's correct.
Yeah.
I think it's the more people talk about it to other people, the more people will come into the group as well. So it's word by mouth as well.
The other thing too, Yasmin, our group is not just about court, it's also about community. So we
Yeah.
come together in different ways, and there is a lot of heart in our group. We genuinely care about each other, and we're very interested in creating authentic connections. And I think that's what makes us different, because it's not just about the law component, it's about the family unit.
Yeah.
Family unit, growing stuff, spiritual stuff. Sigmund, he's a composer. You know, he wrote a beautiful song and stuff like that and gave it to us. Chris R, he's am I allowed to say that you used to work as a civilian as in the police? Am I allowed to say that?
I think you did.
That's
So anyone listening in,
You know, so again,
Lovely.
we got nothing to hide, and this is the whole thing. We're absolutely, truthful and stuff like that. It's brilliant. It's a brilliant little group, and like to all of you, just reach out. You're going to need at some stage. You may need a very close tribe to you. You may need to use a CB radio. You may need to, trust in someone, a total stranger. Strangers aren't dangerous. And that's been proven in law, that the people closest to you are going to do more harm to you than what that a stranger does. Right? So we've got to learn to unlearn.
If you're watching this and you can't see the chat, the website is clauseassembly.com. And do you have a Telegram group as well?
No, we keep it simple.
Very good.
We
But
keep
there
it
is
simple.
there's a Discord group.
A Discord group, great.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Yeah, so what happens is once you come through our website, we will provide you education resources. We ask that you complete at least 3 modules, should take about an hour. And what happens is you get a basic grounding so that when you do come to our meetings, you're going to understand the lingo and fit in better. And then you can also focus on bigger things rather than re-educating some of the simple things that are the basics. So once you get through that channel, you jump onto our Discord group, which is our social chat area, where we talk about things that have happened to us, or our wins, or what's going on. So that's how we create community there as well.
And then Yasmin in WA, do you want to put a link to your group in? And I will put this, add all the links to the replay so that people can find you. So thanks for that, Anunza. That's really great. It's really great, a way to get everyone all up to speed so that, lingo is everything.
I'd like to see a Zoom meeting like this with 1,000 people.
Yeah.
Right? And then it can break off, and then someone else can get it to 1,000 people. That's what's needed right now.
Well, what we might do is we're facilitating that, Bruce, and for everyone listening in, we're actually running a self-reliance summit from June 18th through to the 30th of July 18th through the 30th. And during that summit, we're going to have all kinds of topics to do with self-reliance. And we'd like to invite Bruce and back on, and anyone who's maybe watching this now who's expert in the areas of common law. You can approach me and say, hey, I want to be your common law speaker, and we can have a panel and really discuss these things in depth and really grow the common law tribe. I know there's lots of groups out there, but having people in your area can be really powerful and beneficial. So stay tuned to this channel, My Self-Reliance and Food Storage, for more information on the Self-Reliance Summit coming up on 18th of July. And that will be a really powerful way of bringing everyone together who have the same values. And there'll be lots of topics we cover there, and you'll feel there's a few that will speak to you and that you want to know more about. And so we'll have lots of experts in different areas. So I want to thank everyone who's jumped on tonight and who's asked questions, and I hope that this has been valuable hour for you. You've been able to connect or get more information, see the bigger picture, and know that that this conversation is really needs to get bigger and bigger. And so as we
I don't
wrap
mind-
up,
I don't mind hanging
I'll
on
let
up.
you give the final word, Bruce.
Well, I was just going to say, I don't mind hanging on if you have to, you know, kill the recording if there's a couple of other questions and stuff like that. Because I
That'd
know
be
that, you know, they cut it off. But yeah, more than happy to have a chat. And as I said, there's some really good people here. Thank you for the invitation. It's always good to, you know, meet a new lot of people instead of standing on the back of a truck in Canberra, going to, you know, all the protests down there and supplying the truck stops down there since January up until about, well, I'm still supplying a truck. I just haven't gone down the last 2 or 3 weeks. But, you know, being at the Governor General's and being in Canberra and being part of the other rallies. And so I'm working with all the other freedom fighters out there to actually bring this back together to, you know, just to unite as one big thing. So we, you know, keep on going.
That's amazing. It's really important and powerful. So that's the beauty of being live in the chat room, is that we can stay on and ask questions. And for those who are watching the recording, thank you so much for being here. And we hope to see you next Tuesday. We're here every Tuesday. And next week we have on a special guest who is all about community. About looking at how to set up communities, and my special guest is from Open Heart and Mind. So we'll look forward to having him on the show. And that's Cooper. So you'll meet him next Tuesday. So thanks everyone. Have a good night, and we'll see you all again.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, I like to figure out how I can press stop record. That'd be